Hey, it's me, James, and I am here about to conduct this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. It is Sunday evening, August the 10th, 2025. So we're going to be taking a look at the week ahead, starting on Monday, August the 11th, 2025. As you can see, there is one deck on the table, and that is because, once again, this week we're going to be doing a box reading. I just love you guys so much because after last week's reading, I got even more requests to do another box reading example so I can do a line of 5 extraction. You all seem to be loving that so much. So I wanted to honor that request once again, and I decided for this week that I would work with a system that I don't believe I've done the box reading and line of 5 extraction with yet. So we're going to be working with Lenormand because, if you remember, I got this idea from the pages of my favorite Lenormand book, the Complete Lenormand Oracle Handbook. Yeah, the Complete Lenormand Oracle Handbook by Kathleen Matthews. And so I thought, well, since it is source material about the Lenormand system, I probably should use a Lenormand deck with it at some point. So here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards. We're going to deal out 9 cards and read them in a box layout, and then in a follow-up video I will be once again showing how to extract the 5 cards for a line of 5 from the box. Alright, so we have our 9 cards laid out in the box format. So as I always do, I start with the card in the middle, card 5. That for me is the central issue, or the focus card, or the heart of the matter, or the hinge card. There's several different names for it. So let's take a look at that. And here we have Crossroads. So for the week ahead, Crossroads centers on choices and decisions. So there may be choices and decisions that need to be made, and so we'll have to take a look at the surrounding cards to see what more about that we might need to know. But the card by itself can represent, like I said, choices and decisions. This is the card that would suggest, when it comes to choices and decisions, that we need to be looking at alternatives, what are our options, things like that. It even may imply that there's more than one choice or decision that may need to be made. Now, it could also pertain to direction, because the image is of a path that separates into 2. So it could be for people who are maybe having choices or decisions surrounding their direction in life, where they're going, that kind of thing. Now, we could also use this card as a directional cue, because one of the paths kind of veers off towards this card, so it'd be interesting to see. And I should say, by the way, that the way I'm going to read this box reading is that the first column would be beginning of the week, middle of the week for the middle, end of the week for the last column. So, but like I said, it's very interesting because the image veers off to a card in the future column, right? So this would be some maybe choice of decision that's going to have some sort of ramifications or implications towards the end of the week, right? But in and of itself, this card can represent, like I said, choices and decisions. Could be about your path in life, your direction in life, that kind of thing. The last thing I will touch on is that this card has the Queen of Diamonds as the playing card insert. So this could also be pertaining to a woman who may need to make a decision. It may center on a woman who needs to make a decision, right? So that's what I would say about Crossroads. So now we move to the card in the corner here, top corner. This is going to represent I call it the trigger card. It usually represents, like, why are we asking the question that we're asking, or something that's opening up regarding the choices and decisions. Now remember, Lenormand is a system that's best read in combination, so we're going to be pairing cards up. So here we have house. Okay. So this is a card that can represent your home life, family, can represent real estate, property, domestic affairs. And interestingly enough, we have another inset here. We have the King of Hearts. So we have two people possibly who are involved in this situation that's unfolding, right? But it could be about home and family. This card can also be about comfort. Home is a comfort card for me. So there may be choices or decisions that's going to affect the family, choices or decisions about home, choices and decisions about real estate, or that we're being encouraged to become comfortable with the choices and decisions that we made, especially if we've explored our options and our alternatives within the decision-making process. Now it could also be about a family needing to kind of decide or make decisions about where they're going as a family unit. Yeah. So there's that again. House can represent home, family, domestic affairs. Okay. So now here we have the closing card. I go there next. And so here we have book. Okay. So now when book turns up, book can represent learning about something, right? And so when it's the last card in a box, it can represent something about the situation as it nears its state of completion will be learned about, right? This could be about reading up on something, educating yourself on something. But I tend to like having my books in my decks open. 9 times out of 10, a book will be closed in the image, and that can represent, some kind of secret, some kind of mystery. But this could be, the mystery being revealed, an open book, right? It could also be about, for me, if I read into the image, about turning a page in the story of your life, yeah? Now with these two cards, I was getting the sense of like maybe leaving home, like the decision to leave home, right? The path, decision to leave home, and then why? Because somebody may be going to school, right? It would be interesting if the tower showed up, because the tower in the book can represent as a combination going off to university. But in and of itself, this could be, the path towards education, right? This would be a card about learning, so this could be the path or the decision to study something, to learn something. Now, house and book could represent, educating yourself at home. So this could be like somebody choosing to take a course, a home study course, yeah? But I'm going, when it comes to like home, family, something like that, there may be something that's going to be learned, but at the center of it involves a choice or decision or looking at options and alternatives. So that's how I would look at book. And then of course, me being a reader, book is a card that can represent the Lenormand deck itself. Like for me, because this can represent a deck of cards, and that's why I have playing cards in my image of the book to highlight that idea about, not only do we read books, but we read cards as well. Okay, so now let's turn over the other cards and see what we have going on. Here we have the bear, clouds, snake, mountain, look at this tower. And I was just talking about towers. The tower and book could represent university. Yeah, like I said, if we mirror the cards, because this would be institution. What type of institution? Educational institution, an institution of learning, something of that nature. But I'm also seeing other things in the cards. Okay, and then the last card that I haven't turned over yet is ship. Okay, Alright, so now the first thing I'm doing, looking at the cards as a whole, I highlighted that we had the Queen of Diamonds in the middle as the inset. We also had the King of Hearts. We also have, with Clouds, the King of Clubs, and with Snake we have the Queen of Clubs. So we have a situation possibly with multiple players in the game, right? Because Lenormand was first introduced as the game of hope, so there's lots of players in the game. We have 2 women and 2 men. And interestingly enough, we have the Snake, Queen of Clubs, and it knights to the King of Clubs here in the Clouds card. So here we have possibly a married couple. And then we have some other players, right? Now, I touched on this before, so I'm going to bring it up again. Here, this column, we have the house card, we have the snake, and we have tower. So tower is not just a card that can represent institutions. It can represent a company, corporation, or firm. Yeah. So this can also be the card that represents the government, because this card can be about rules, regulations, policies, things of that nature. It could also represent being in isolation, right? And then we have the Queen of Clubs, or the Snake card in between. So now remember, I talked about this once before in a previous reading when I used this deck. The Snake card can be about consequences, but it can also be a scandal card. And this would be a woman who is at the center of the column, center of a scandal, right? So now we know of a woman who is in prison. Tower can represent prison, right? Confinement. So there's a scandal involving a woman who is currently in prison, right? And then if we mirror house and tower, here we might have Congress. House could be a House of Representatives, and there's the government card. Or house could be a play on the White House, involved in a scandal, right? And then tower here would indicate, if this is about scandal and the consequences of a scandal, that means it's just continuing to build, right? Because the tower can represent a tall building, something that's building up, right? So this could be about Ghislaine Maxwell here. Or there's going to be something else involving another form of scandal, possibly, and there's going to be a woman at the center of the scandal. Or it's going to involve a man and a woman, because we have the King of Hearts there too. Now the King of Hearts could be a family man, right? For me, in my playing card cartomancy system that I have curated, he can represent a married man, family man, that kind of thing. And then we have the scandalous woman here with the Queen of Clubs. So there may be something involving a married man. I touched on that once before, I think in a previous reading, so it's being highlighted again possibly. And then the snake can represent a complicated situation, a long and winding process, a situation with a great deal of complexity to it. And then if this is not about Ghislaine Maxwell, then the Queen of Clubs can be a woman who has dark hair and wears glasses. Right, but there may be a scandal, if it's not another one involving the White House or the government in some shape, form, or fashion. Government officials maybe, because this would be somebody who's high up in office. There's going to be a new scandal unfolding. Okay, so then we're going to move to bear. And the interesting thing, if I take tower, which could represent government, right, politics, and it knights to bear. Bear is a card that can represent leadership, authority, power, control, force. So this would be somebody who's in leadership, right, if we go with this. So there may be a decision made by a leader. And then here we have ship. Ship is the commerce card. So this is about commercial ventures, This could also be about travel. So this could be maybe something involving the travel industry. What I'm seeing here, if ship, we night shift to house, here we have domestic affairs, right? If this is the White House, this is kind of things on the domestic front, house, but also things on the international front, ship. Ship is a card that can represent things of a foreign nature, something international. I'm seeing international waters. This could also involve shipping or shipments, right? This could be imports, exports. And so this is making me feel more like crossroads and ship could be about tariffs, possibly. You know, with the idea that things are going to be going up. So it's going to be choices and decisions about imported goods, or choices and decisions about exports. Right, there's something about import, export here that there may be some decisions about, and then somebody who's at the top, right, visually at the top of the column, but also in a leadership position. Somebody who's in a position to make those decisions, yeah? Or it could be that somebody's going to be forced to make a decision regarding either commerce, import, exports, something of a foreign nature. Now what I'm looking here, I'm looking at these two cards. Here we have, if this is about isolation or confinement, then here we have maybe foreigners who are in isolation or confinement. I'm thinking about detention. That's the word that's coming into my head. Maybe some choices around that or decisions around that. Now the only other thing that could happen, this is more a mundane thing, somebody may need to literally think about choices or decisions regarding travel, foreign travel. This could be like even going on a cruise, right? If I go with the idea that this is a literal ship, like going on a cruise. And then why? Because of resources. Bear is a card of resources. It's a secondary money card, like fish would be the primary money card for me anyway. And then bear can sometimes be secondary. Now the other thing that I'm seeing here is that bear is also a card about food. So there may be things having to do with imported foods, especially, and needing to make some choices or decisions around that. I'm also getting the idea here between crossroads and ship about something being rerouted. That's the word that's coming to me. So, because this card can be about path and direction, but I'm seeing like there may be some sort of change or a rerouting of something, and it has to do with some type of resources. So that's what I'm seeing here in this column. In this column, we have the most challenging card in the deck at the top with clouds. So clouds for me can represent uncertainty, confusion, doubt, something being up in the air or needing to clear the air. So there's confusion, doubt, uncertainty, and then mountain. Mountain is a card about challenges, blocks, or obstacles. So it can represent something being delayed, or there's some sort of setback, or something being postponed. And then with clouds and book, it could be uncertain or a mystery as to why there's a setback, what's the delay, that kind of thing. Now mountain also knights to tower. Remember, if this is about a company, corporation, firm, or institutions, or government, or some sort of policy, some sort of rule or regulation, or making something official, there's going to be some sort of block or a challenge to that. Because I'm feeling with book, it's like getting it on the books, right? But these three cards represent a great deal of uncertainty, and there's no telling when that whatever this is going to be cleared up with book as the last card. Now it could also be, if I go back to my original impression with tower and book, because I had talked about it, this being a university, a learning institution, educational unit, institution, I was going to say a university, something about a place of higher learning, yeah, then there may be some sort of delay or setback or obstacle regarding an institution, and it may involve something having to do with foreigners, right? Maybe like foreign students, that kind of thing, coming into the country to learn at a prestigious school. There may be some sort of confusion or uncertainty about that, right? Remember, this is the future column, so there may be some sort of uncertainty or confusion regarding education, book, and then book and tower. So that's what I'm seeing with the columns. So let's take a look at the rows. So we have house, bear, and clouds. Here we have maybe family, comfort, something having to do with home, real estate, property, and then bear is about resources or somebody who's in charge. Because this would be leadership, authority. So maybe somebody who's considered the head of household, and that would bring back the King of Hearts here, but leading to some sort of confusion or uncertainty. And then also too, the other thing that's coming to me, if this is the King of Hearts, a male person, King of Clubs, a male person, bear in between them could be a power play or power struggle, right? This is a card of power, of force. So there may be some sort of power play or struggle, and it may involve some sort of resources between the two men in power, two men in leadership. So that's what I'm seeing with that. And then we have a similar dynamic here. We have the snake, crossroads, and mountain. Here we have two women, right? Possibly with the Queen of Clubs and the Queen of Diamonds. And then there's going to be some sort of setback, delay, or something being postponed. Now it could also be due to a scandal. There may be a decision to delay something, to postpone something, to set it back. Or regarding a scandal, there's going to be multiple challenges with that. A crossroads, it can be a card of multiples. And crossroads is making me feel like the challenges may be coming in different directions. Yeah. So I'm seeing with that. And then the bottom row, here we have tower, ship. I already touched on that. It makes me feel like there's something about something overseas. There's a rule, regulation, policy, maybe about foreigners, or it's going to have to do with foreigners. That's going to be learned about. Or there's something involving education and foreign students. And then of course there's going to be some uncertainty or confusion regarding that, how to move forward with that. Or that there's going to be some problem with a company, corporation, firm, right? Commercial venture, and then we have the company, corporation, firm here. Yeah, and then we could do the corners. I was looking at this corner chiefly, clouds and tower, so there may be some confusion, doubt, uncertainty regarding a rule, regulation, policy, or something having to do with a company, corporation, firm, or institution, or even confusion from the White House, government, politics, right? Because if I remember correctly, Congress is still out of session, yeah? So this may have to do with the White House directly, but there's some sort of confusion, uncertainty, doubt. So it's either coming from the White House, like they're putting it out there, out in the air, out in the atmosphere, this air of confusion, uncertainty, or doubt, or it's going to be directed at them. I'm feeling it's going to be coming more out. And then again, it's going to involve a scandal, right? Snake also knights to clouds, as I said earlier. So if this is not about a couple, then this could be about a scandal that's still up in the air. And that would make sense in terms of choices, decisions regarding that. So that's what I'm seeing here with this 9-card box. And so, like I said, I'm going to end it here, and in the next video I will go about doing a line of 5 as a way to wrap this up or shed a different light or a different message on the box overall. So if you hung out with me and made it to this point, I want to thank you for giving me the gift of your time, and I look forward to seeing you in that next video. So until then, have a great night, have a great day, and take care.